Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Hell yeah.
They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second.
Hey everybody, so much time and so little to talk about. I'm looking at everybody graduating right now, and it's funny, the latest thing is like lays and reefs, reefs, whatever, we'll call them lays, and everybody's selling them at the corners for the family members that are going to buy the reef to show everybody how much they care about their kids. But I wonder if now it's going to work against them, because people are going to see the reef and like, oh, that's one they're selling at the corner. That's the last minute reef. So do you really care? So it's almost better not to buy anything, and they'll assume you're buying them a nice gift or take them out to dinner. It's funny to talk about graduation. It's the only thing I think about is it's always hot. I think I'm just sitting in the sun baking, and usually I'm wearing a sports jacket, so it's even more hot. Ugh. And on a side note, it's crazy how many people they're at a graduation or a promotion, and they dress like they're gonna go play basketball, not watch a basketball game, but actually play basketball. T-shirt, shorts, and it's like, come on, just at least at the very minimum, wear a collared shirt. And I think it sends a message to kids. It's like, hey, you could still respect things, yeah, we're going to make fun of this, that, and the other, but, why not? It harkened back to the days when people used to wear maybe not a suit and tie, but a collared shirt and a tie and slacks to go watch baseball and basketball. If you look at the old photos of the audience, everybody's dressed like they're going to church, though that's not saying much, because people going to church wear tank tops and flip-flops and beanies and everything else. So and it's not that anybody's better than anybody else, because half of those old pictures, it's guys posing with Al Capone, and even himself is dressing up nice. But it's just a respect for certain venues, and it just makes things nice, like, okay, we're relaxing here. We don't have to dress up here, but we're dressing up here, and it's just for atmosphere. In Dutch, it's called gezellig. And it's just, hey, why not make some things more pleasurable? Even though technically you don't have to. Technically, it doesn't make sense to wear a tuxedo, but we do in certain events, and it makes it nicer because it's special, or especial for my Spanish listeners. Today I was talking about feeling bad, and what it is yesterday I was driving and my blood sugar was high, and I don't know what was going on. I think it's because I went to Denny's after the graduation, and yeah, I know I'm a baller. So my blood sugar got over 400. Typically it's supposed to be between 80 and 100 and 85 and 105, whatever. But if you're in that zone, you're okay. It's always funny because people will come up to me and tell me, oh yeah, my blood sugar is crazy. It's 115. I'm like, if only, again, I yesterday I was at as low as 45 and as high as 400. So yeah, when you're anytime you're hovering around 100, you're doing okay. But with me, it's time. It's like, okay, it spikes, get back to normal, because I almost feel like it's how much time you're in the abnormal range is bad. That's why constantly correct it with anything, just like even if you're drinking. I would rather drink one day a week and instead of every day, because it's again, it's not whether you drink so much. I think it is how much time you spend drinking, so just save it for the weekends and do yourself a favor and don't drink the hard stuff. Like my uncle used to always say, you can get to the same place with beer as you do whiskey. It just takes a little bit longer. And the fact that it takes longer, to me, it's like at least there's more water in beer, and it's probably not as, you're not boiling your liver, so to speak. But he came up with that conclusion because he lived in a dry county in Utah, so they figured out how to get to the same place using different things, as we always do in America, out of necessity. So yeah, so I'm feeling terrible, and come to find out it's because of my blood sugar, and it's funny because usually if it's low, my body and most diabetics, at least this is how I feel, your body starts to do more necessary things. It cuts out other things, and it's just a survival thing, like if you're bleeding to death or anything else. And I feel like I'm more focused when my blood sugar is low, so it must be very high right now because I'm thinking about everything. And so when it's low, you're more focused, and I think that's the key to a lot of success in every department, is just focus on something. Like I always say, if you're focused on worrying or what could go wrong, then you can't focus 100% on what can go right. So I'm driving yesterday doing the podcast, and just kind of not as focused as I'd like to be, and it just wasn't nailing things. And of course, I'm getting ready to wrap it up, and then I see a stupid highway patrol on the road. And in California, you have to have your phone in a cradle. And of course mine's in my hand, and I just don't like cradles, even because you can't see the damn thing, and if it's in your hand, it's not going to slide around because stupid cradles pop off, or you go to plug in the wire, and then the suction cup loses its suction, and blah blah blah. So it's in my hand, and I'm like, oh great, now that I feel like the highway patrol is just looking at me, and he's like a half a mile or mile away. You can see him forever, and so I put it real low, and so I go past him, and then by the time I kind of get into my app again, my phone's like on a different page, and so the podcast ended, and I got no bumper music to play, and I played the wrong one, and so it goes. And the thing about audio is, if you have poor audio, which I'm always working to improve, that will distract people more than anything else. We were doing a video for a product, and I had a budget. Everything was good. The lighting, the video camera, the high def, and everything was great. And we were having trouble getting a sound guy to show up. And with the director, whatever you want to call him, the guy putting the whole thing together, filming and etc., he was saying that out of all the things, audio will take you out of something more quickly than anything else. So anytime you're doing something, just don't ever get cheap with the audio. In fact, you're better off doing a great piece of audio if you can only choose one versus video. Of course, both would be great, but start with your audio, because if you have terrible audio but a great video, it all gets flushed down the toilet, because bad audio is a distraction. And that's all I'm thinking about is when I put the wrong song on, and then there's dead air, they call it, when you're not saying anything, and it's like the worst thing, and so you're feeling terrible, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, what am I doing here? And then like you just kind of get your stuff together. You just pull yourself together, pull yourself out of it. And how do you do that? It's by not dwelling on the negatives. Because if I was to go over in my head about, okay, how bad I'm feeling, how bad things were turning out, then you're kind of solidifying that. You're giving that weight. But if I dismiss it and say, okay, it was a bad hit. I hit the ball, like in tennis, Dr. Laura used to say, you hit the ball, and as soon as you hit it, forget about it. Think about your next shot. Okay, so I hit the ball, and one thing to think about too is, okay, so I did something bad, I said something bad. Now I'm thinking, okay, who's going to hear it, and what are they going to think? Well, for one, nobody listens. For two, if let's say there's 1,000 people listening, and what about the 300 that didn't really care about it, and they are developing in their mind the last message you said, the last thing you said, and so take the positive and focus on that. Say, okay, so I hit the nail on the head for these 300, so let me get back to trying to get the whole 1,000. Okay, so I only got 900 that are giving me the thumbs up or whatever. So it's now you need to focus on, okay, how do we get on track again? How do we move forward? And then as the results come in for you moving forward, you feel better and you get momentum going the right way. And then I was at my first appointment yesterday, and of course everything's going wrong. But I just tell myself, say, look, it's like when you're working out and you're having a bad week, just say, all right, let me just ride this week out, and then I'll start fresh a new week. I'm not going to give up working out. And I think a lot of people will do that. They'll have whatever they're doing, they'll say to hell with it. Nothing's going right. And, I think what you need to do is just compartmentalize. There's a great saying, it's that what sank the Titanic? And, people that know me are sick of me saying this, so what I'm going to say, but I'll say it anyway. The Titanic sank not because of the iceberg so much as what it didn't do. It didn't compartmentalize. And what I mean by that is when the hole was ruptured, it took on water little by little, but it had these little walls in the hole where when it filled up, the wall would not go all the way to the ceiling in the hull of the boat, the belly of the boat essentially, and it would go over to the next one, and it would go over to the next one until finally it was negatively buoyant. The whole thing just went down. It couldn't displace any more water. But what they do now is those little compartments go all the way to the ceiling of the hole. So if it ruptures something, it fills up that cylinder, I guess you will, that area, but it doesn't go into the next area. And all the other areas are just still displacing water, so it's neutrally buoyant. And the same thing with us is, if we're having an issue, a bad day, whatever it is, let's just keep it to that specific area, and then it won't ruin the next week or our career or our hobbies or anything else. To say, okay, this moment in time right now is bad. Let's stop the bleeding. Let's hemorrhage. Let's find out what's going on. Let's make it the best case scenario. So then, when we recover, we can get out of the hole more quickly. I think we do that in our lives too a lot. I've had guys that would come to work, and you've heard me talk about some of them that had DUIs, and they just radiate the problems. Whether some of them would have problems, with their spouse or girlfriend or whatever, and they would just spew the venom in their life, and what it is they couldn't compartmentalize. And a lot of them just alcoholism or whatever, just kind of, they couldn't show up to work enough, and then they felt bad about not showing up, so then they would just quit, go to the next job. And some of these guys, I would get to tell them, say, look, You need to compartmentalize. If your spouse